So the argument over whether DICE should continue their strange movement towards a more casual, slow-paced Battlefield title with this TTK change is still going on. And in the most recent turn of events, DICE have actually decided to post a letter to the community in an attempt to address the angry mob. This letter appeared on Friday last week, over 48 hours from the TTK change, and I might add that within those 48 hours we had radio silence. No information from EA or DICE at all. The footage you see in the background right now is not of the TTK that we currently have, it is of the old TTK which is available on Conquest Core. I much prefer it, and I don't plan on playing the game with this new TTK at all. As you all know, the community, or at least the vast majority of the community, dislikes this TTK change. The game was certainly not perfect before DICE started altering time to kill values, but it was far better than what we have now, and followed the principles of the game DICE said they would build. A slightly more demanding, hardcore experience that relied on aim and teamwork to excel at. As I've mentioned in previous videos, what we have now only suits the brand new players who have incredibly bad reaction times and no interest in getting better at the game. There is an argument that the new TTK does have a more demanding style to it because headshots are far more valuable and you have to hit more rounds in order to kill an enemy, but in my opinion that's just not the case, and the old one was better in every way. Now the main section of this video, let's take a look at the letter DICE sent. I'll read through it now, it's also on screen if you want to have a look. On behalf of the Battlefield team, I'd like to apologise for the silence over the past couple of days on the TTK topic. We've seen it's been a big talking point and causing a divide in the community, which was never our intention. We have been listening closely to what you've all been saying. Changes to the game carrying this kind of weight need clearer, earlier communication before getting rolled out. We will improve how we roll out updates in the future and respond more quickly when you have questions or concerns. So why the change in TTK now? The intent came from us observing that new players are having a very hard time with the game compared to our core players, and we wanted to see if we could improve this over the holidays so more players can have a great time. As many of our veteran players know, Battlefield games constantly evolve and change over time in our collaboration with the community. Battlefield 5 is no exception. We heard your feedback that many of you prefer the old TTK values, with one playlist featuring only Conquest using the core settings clearly not being enough. To fix that, we will be adding a core version of all playlists in the game next week, giving you a clearer choice between new and old settings. We'll update you early next week on when the new playlist will be added. We want to hear from you about the changes, blah blah blah. We'd also like to thank all of you, blah blah blah. Now, let's start by breaking that letter down. We will begin, of course, at the beginning. The radio silence and poor communication. Firstly, if the development of Battlefield 5 has taught me anything, it is that the current crop at EA DICE either enjoy watching the community argue amongst themselves over the new changes, or someone at the company is preventing them from relaying important information over, leading to these silent periods. I suggested that EA DICE create a position purely for relaying this information via Twitter and answering questions directly, but was shot down by the EA community manager. I know the community managers work very hard on the Battlefield forums and Reddit pages, however Twitter is a different matter, and so is YouTube. I guarantee 90% of the community do not know who to direct their frustrations at. Many people don't use the forums and many people don't use Reddit. So that's my first point. We need far more communication and it needs to have clarity. Having a community manager at DICE, or maybe giving one of the devs the specific role of answering queries at this stage in the game, would pay dividends, and so many people in the community think this is a good idea, and I'm sure would get on board if they just gave one of the devs that responsibility through this difficult Christmas period. Secondly, the quote, "We've seen it's been a big talking point and causing a divide in the community was never our intention," is a bit short-sighted in my opinion. What did you actually think would happen if you purposefully went against what the entire community wanted? I've actually rarely seen the Battlefield community band together against something in unison before, so this was a special occasion and one DICE really should have listened to. However, they didn't and changed the TTK anyway, and they did it overnight. They didn't say they were going to do it until a day before, and in fact they actually said a couple of weeks before that they wouldn't change the TTK after everybody said it was a bad idea, these protests being led by some of the major YouTubers such as Westy. To then say it was never our intention confused me a bit. What did you actually think would happen? Next up we have their justification for the TTK change. DICE said the intent came from us observing that new players are having a very hard time with the game compared to our core players, and we wanted to see if we could improve this over the holidays so more players can have a great time. This comment smells bad from the outset. What this essentially means is either one of the two following statements. Firstly, we didn't sell very many copies of the game and need to try anything to cash in on the younger audience over the Christmas period, especially the console community, increasing the TTK and making the game more casual alongside a sale on the game might help. And as a matter of fact, we've seen both of those things. The game has been on sale on console, annoying a lot of people who paid full price for the game but a few weeks beforehand, and of course the TTK has been altered. The second statement could be, DICE clearly think that the TTK is the reason players get frustrated at Battlefield 5 and quit the game. Again, this is a completely ridiculous statement. There are loads of reasons why people quit Battlefield 5, and I'll go through those in a second. The TTK, in its previous form, is one of the things that made me play Battlefield 5. It was crisp, rewarding, and most importantly, very fun. This new TTK just highlights the deficiencies with weapon balance and other bugs, in my opinion. Here are a list of reasons that cause people to quit Battlefield 5. These are taken from my own personal experience and from Reddit, which is always a good place to go if you're looking for angry people who have just rage quit Battlefield. The one frame time to die bug, visibility and enemies blending into the environment, a poorly laid out UI, game modes that are all worse than in Battlefield 1, the main issue being Grand Operations being a complete mess and Conquest being incredibly imbalanced. Map balance in general sucks on several maps and modes, assignments are glitched and cannot be changed in-game either, the medic class is essentially useless, even more so after the recent TTK patch, animations are everywhere, and for any half-decent FPS player you will know that animations have no place in an FPS game that relies on aim and positioning to win, unless they're of course capped, for example CSGO arming the bomb, that sort of stuff. Company coins suck. The people that paid for the Ultimate Edition expected really cool airdrops. We have been given a few skins and badges so far. Pretty pathetic. The netcode is terrible in my opinion. The vehicles are fairly soulless and there is not much thought of balance at all. Being killed behind cover happens all the time. Having to jump 10 times and try different angles to vault over one obstacle sucks and is a legacy issue in Battlefield. Poor spawn points. Not being able to spawn on friendly controlled flags. Bipod deployment issues. When an enemy spawns on his squadmate as he's being killed by you, that is not supposed to happen. You cannot spawn in combat, although it happens all the time in BF5. When you try to use the V1 rocket or JB2 rocket, but half your screen goes black in a diagonal fashion, that's not very fun. When the game takes forever to quit back to the main menu so you can choose new assignments, this causes you to, guess what, Alt F4 on PC, which is why people are quitting a lot of the time. Trying to spawn in with a class only for it to violate server rules, and funnily enough the game doesn't tell you what the rules actually are, so that's fun. And then you have the endless quitting screens again, that causes people to Alt F4. Now I can usually put up with poor balance and bugs. All Battlefield games have had them. Battlefield 4, my favourite game in the franchise, it's not everyone's favourite but it's my personal favourite, was a terrible game on launch. It was one of the worst games I've ever played. It was so buggy, it still has bugs today. For example, in the helicopter, you have a TV bug that causes you to explode randomly in midair. I've had that when going on 100 plus kill streaks and streaming and making really cool content, and then I just explode randomly. But I can get over it because the rest of the game is pretty good. With Battlefield 5, they have the bugs, and the rest of the game was okay. But now they've changed that, so there's nothing to fall back on. Again, with Battlefield 5, you have a live service. It should be an even quicker process to fix these issues, in my opinion, because they aren't focusing on large DLC packages and have in fact gone to that live service, meaning you won't receive anywhere near as much content as with the old system, but hopefully the content you do receive will be free and consistent. This doesn't look like it will be the case, as these bugs are being fixed incredibly slowly, and some of them, in my opinion, just won't be fixed at all. That might be a little unfair for me to say because I'm not too sure what DICE are working on behind the scenes. It's not really very clear, and quite honestly, they shouldn't have to say exactly what they're doing behind the scenes because some of it is probably a bad thing to say. If you say you're going to fix something and then you don't fix it, it's better to keep that stuff behind closed doors until it's sorted. However, it would be nice to see a bit more transparency in that regard. Finally, we have the point made in the letter from DICE that in order to fix this issue, they are adding a core version of all the playlists in the next week, giving you a clearer choice between new and old settings. Again, a ridiculous choice. Why not make the game the old TTK and then add a new system where you have Conquest TTK 0.5 or maybe something that is a bit more catchy. But with those new modes, you have the new TTK. So players who are having a hard time in the game as it was can go and play that new TTK, get to grips with the game, and then realise that it actually does suck a bit and come and play the proper game. Instead, what they've done is change the game for everybody, and then the Conquest Core is just kind of tagged onto the side. Now, from when I did play a bit of Conquest Core, all the players playing it were high levels. So what that tells me is that people who know what Battlefield 5 is about, know that the TTK was fine as it is, and new players might want to try the new TTK and probably are only trying it because it's what quick play puts you into. In my opinion, I think it should have been the other way around, but maybe that's just me. Finally, we'll finish off today with a Reddit post from a guy called Wants to Mine Gold. He brought up quite a few interesting points and I'll read it out for you. I'm a casual player with a fairly shitty KD, and my roommates are truly terrible at this game. Think 3 to 20 scores sometimes. We don't want the new TTK and it doesn't help us. The game is hard either way, and the new system makes it harder to get multiple kills. We are going to die a lot anyway, so just leave it how it was. We were having a blast, even dying a lot, but learning and getting better. Not everyone cares about their KD as much as people think, especially not casuals like myself. Making everyone a sponge makes the game more frustrating for me personally, and I much prefer the quicker KD as it feels more realistic and intense. This sums up a different style of player, someone who I can't exactly relate to, because as much as I don't think I'm the best player in the world, I certainly don't go 3 for 20 on games of Battlefield. Now, for a player that does that, for a player that really doesn't get many kills at all, this change is super negative for them. With more bullets required to kill enemies, if you suck at Battlefield and you can't aim, but you also love Battlefield and the whole atmosphere of the game and playing with your friends and getting in vehicles and almost like a war simulation but in a casual environment, this new TTK is really not going to be any good for you. And the old one was just fine. And as he states, if he's going to die a lot anyway, just leave it as it was. Give him the chance of getting that double kill or that triple kill as he sprays into a corridor or through a doorway. With this one, you're not going to get that happening, and if anything, it's going to push away the casual players more than bring them in. That's just my 2 cents, and clearly it's reflected by a couple of players in the community. Let me know in the comments what you think. So that's it from this video. I've been through the letter that DICE have responded with. It's not the worst response in the world, but it's also quite a short-sighted one at the same time, especially after a lot of radio silence. But there we go. Let's see what DICE's next move is. Hopefully they revert the changes and then start working on some of the more pressing issues that are definitely causing people to quit the game. Thanks for watching. Leave your comments down below, and I'll catch you in the next video.